Switching topics, last week it may have been the most publicized non-meeting ever to occur. There was supposed to be a meeting at the White House on Tuesday to determine whether or not the administration was going to continue to stay in the Paris Climate Agreement. Yeah. Very well publicized that there are certain folks within the White House who want to stay in and certain folks within the White House who want to get out. What's your position? What would you have said had that meeting occurred?
Well, good timing to be having that meeting for me. I was just back from my first G7 meeting. Was a really fascinating opportunity to take a glimpse into both the public and the private points of view of our counterparts that belong to the G7, particularly our European counterparts. And there was a lot of talk about expanding renewables, and you know, there was a lot of cheerleading for the Paris Accord and for you know, keeping the United States involved in that. A couple of interesting observations. The head, Dr. Barol, who's the head of the International Energy Agency, he gave a fascinating bit of the program and talked about emissions, and the two countries that were making the real impact on emissions are the United States and China. So I'm looking over to my friends from Germany and France and going, and what are you all doing? I wasn't quite that rude. But you have Germany, for instance, who has made the decision to go away from coal, to get out of the nuclear business, to double down, to hear them tell it, on renewables. But the fact is their emissions have gone up because they're using more coal. And they're using coal that is, you know, not clean technologies. And my point is, don't sign an agreement and then expect us to stay in an agreement if you're not going to really participate and be a part of it. In my remarks, I said about words versus actions. And the United States has taken actions to affect in a positive way. You know, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna go, you know, tell the President of the United States, let's just walk away from the Paris Accord. But what I'm gonna say is I think we probably need to renegotiate it. That we need to sit down and they need to get serious about it. Because here's the interesting thing. We're out in the public and they're giving all these speeches about, you know, the Paris Accord and all the things that we're going to do to make, and we get into private meetings, it's like, how do we get that LNG? And that's good. I want them to do that because transferring over from older, inefficient plants to American
seems entirely consistent,
LNG.
Though, right? If they're going to swap out coal with American-made LNG, isn't that a win-win?
It is. It is. But don't get up on the front end and make all these speeches about how good you're doing when the fact of the matter is you're not. I'm about, show me what you've done, not what you've said.
So if I read you correctly, that's you want to stay at the table in Paris, but renegotiate, and your concern is that other parties, namely the EU, are not doing enough to meet their obligations.
That would be a pretty good broad brush at it.
All right.